once again to Greensboro Glimpses. It was about 5 years ago on this program that we featured an organization called Bookcase Operation. A lot's happened in that 5 years, and they're back on this program to give us an update and tell us about some of the exciting things that are going on. On my far left is the founder of the organization, Derek Nguyen. Derek, it's good to have you back on the program.
Nice.
Next to him is Mafaz Afada, and you are I believe, the chief youth leader. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's Mahfouz Afada.
Mahfouz, I'm sorry. Yeah,
yes.
Mahfouz. Got it. Mahfouz Afada. All right. Well, Derek, before we get into the things that are going on now, update us a little bit on the history of the organization. I know this was your idea. How'd you get started?
Oh, I started this back when I was in high school. I kept on talking to my teachers. I was trying to get the volunteering hours, and while working at an assisted living home, I decided, okay, I want to build and make things to help these seniors, because that kind of working with artists and students who are interested in art, we were able to make a bookcase with a bunch of decorations on it with flowers and with lot of decorations. We were able to build. Eventually, we finally found some people who were able to make some furniture, tables and bookcases and little free libraries through working with different groups. And it was hard sometimes trying to work with these groups because they just wasn't reliable. So eventually we finally was able to get our own nonprofit established. But so initially we started with carpentry, but over time we kind of move on to different projects because the carpentry was resource intensive, while at the same time we wasn't able to find any big groups that were able to support us through this endeavor. But we still the principle of being makers and creators and working with artists to illustrate and help social issues and help solve these social issues and illustrate these problems. And so it kind of inspired me to still work with the arts, still apply the same principles art, creativity, leadership and education.
Yeah, do you still have this curriculum that you were talking about, and you teach these various things?
Yes, the curriculum, yes. So we established a curriculum that basically go through a bunch of different topics. Some of the topics that kind of was influenced by what we saw, what we did in the beginning, with the carpentry and with the video making, because during the very beginning I thought, okay, we're going to build some items, we're going to videotape it, but we have to revise that, unfortunately. But we still use the same principle. We still going to have art, education, creativity, youth leadership, those different topics. Some of it we might not teach in our workshops because of the time constraints, entrepreneurship, but we're going to use the experience we got from previous projects and previous nonprofit activities to create to make the curriculum. So the curriculum right now we focusing on global issues, education, art, creativity, storytelling, videography. It's a lot. But
sure. Now, where do your students come from? Where do you get the people that are involved in your program?
From different places. We get them from the Guilford County school system, but so we got him from Dudley High School. His counselor contacted me about some students interested in volunteering doing MLK there. We also got some volunteers from Northwest High School. One from she was initially from Smith High School. Then she went to my high school, Still High School. From different high schools. We also got. We usually work with high school students right now because it's real difficult to find good volunteers. We used to be member of the volunteer center, but we wasn't able to get really that quality group of volunteers we needed from there, unfortunately.
Now, do you have to go into the schools and recruit them, or do they call you? How do they get involved?
Well, we used to be part of the volunteer center. Some of the students, they was able to so one student, she was able to make these little dolls for us. She
hold that up so we can get a camera shot of that.
She contacted us through the volunteer center website. Another volunteer. We also got a couple of adults, but most of the volunteers right now are kids. So this was made by adult volunteer. So a lot of them come from the volunteer center. So it wasn't much as we wanted, but we got a lot from the volunteer center. website, which we used to be a part of that group. But sometimes I also contacted each of the high school counselors or teachers involved in service learning. So I went through, like call every single school to see who is in charge of the student volunteers, and we were able to that how we got in touch with Ms. Pello during MLK Day. So that where some of the volunteers come from. I just tell them, here's some information about our group. I just email them the information, and they contact me back if they got any more volunteers. So that's how I met Mahfouz.
Yeah, Mahfouz, as Chief Youth Leader, what exactly do you do? What are your responsibilities?
Well, since I was recently assigned as that role, I'm not quite entirely sure yet, but I know that I make things to help support this project in making it well known among the general public, so we could gather supporters for our project that we're working on.
Tell us some of the types of things that you've made.
The types of things that I've made are poster boards for showcasing one of the social issues that we're primarily tackling on. One of the poster boards are over there to the left.
Yeah, tell us about that. What does that represent?
So during MLK Day, his high school invited me to come over, and so we decided we're gonna do like a social justice project, because that was during MLK Day. And right now during the news, there's just a bunch of people talking about this situation going on in another country, and people been asking me to do, like, one of the ideas that people been suggesting would do something about other countries and teaching other countries, which I want to do, because I was talking to kids. They were saying stuff about how, like, Sudan was in Germany. I thought, okay, we're going to start teaching about foreign countries, because people I mean, a bunch of statements that made me think, okay, we're going to start doing some foreign countries now. So in the news, I heard about how in China there are a lot of prosecution go on with the Muslim minorities groups, like the Uyghurs. And I just thought, okay, that would be a great project for Dudley High School, because this was MLK Day. We wanted to talk about social issues, and we wanted since about MLK Day, that was really appropriate topic, because MLK Day they're about social justice. So we're gonna start doing a social justice issue that I thought was that nobody really want to touch, because one thing I want to do is always touch projects that nobody else was doing. That with the bookcases and tables, nobody else was doing that before we start doing that, and we kind of led the way in that movement. And we're gonna also want to let the way in this movement, which it was we want to start tackling other topics that nobody else had done before. So we done the research. So Mahfouz and I and some other students from high school, we went and watched videos, and we read articles. Right? Tell him about the research we did.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, Mahfouz.
Right. The research we did about the Uyghurs in China, we found out that the Chinese government made these concentration camps. They codenamed it re-education camps, but that is a euphemism to hide what they're actually doing. They are doing inhumane acts to the Uyghurs just because the Chinese government does not see them as people that should be trusted. These acts include torture, abuse, brutality, oppression, all that stuff.
Yeah, and you found all that out through your research. And how do you communicate this to the students? Do you get together and have seminars or classes? How do you get the word out? Do you have groups that meet?
Yes, we do have groups. We done actual workshops with this. So here's some dolls. And these dolls kind of represent the different groups involved. These are the Uyghurs. These are the government individuals, and they kind of prosecute the government individual. We even made a concentration camp model of things, and we kind of based and we try to touch it like a difficult topic, especially for young people. But feel like with young kids right now, they learn about the Holocaust, they learn about slavery, that in the past, but they don't know about never again. They don't know how to like tackle current social problems, because you learn about the Holocaust, but how are you going to prevent the next Holocaust? Which unfortunately, after it happened in 1940, it kept on happening like in different decades, in Rwanda, in Bosnia, in like Iraq, in the different places, like massive injustice, and in Burma. And we see when we're talking to like kids right now, they're not really knowledgeable about these social issues. And I thought, okay, I've been spending a lot of time teaching kids how to build and make things. Why don't we just have them build and make things that can be used to teach about these social problems? Because some of the things we build and make will use to like illustrate about Alzheimer's and different topics, raise awareness about different topics. We can just use the experience from that to like just build and make stuff about the social issues going on in other countries, because we tackle social issues in this country already with the Alzheimer's project. We decided, okay, maybe we can tackle like social issues going on in other countries as well, which I felt like with the Uighur situation, nobody was really wanting to talk about this because of the economic situation in China. A lot of people are getting a lot of money from China. Even there was a TV show called The Good Fight, and in the TV show The Good Fight, they were showing a segment about the Uyghurs, but they had to censor that TV show. They had to remove a entire segment because they was afraid the government was going to like prosecute some of their corporate individuals in China. And so it like even like major companies are afraid to tackle some of the issues wrong with China. And we decided, okay, we bunch of kids who just like making and building stuff. We were doing carpentry projects for a long time. Why not we just like make some clay dolls and crochet dolls and use these dolls to like tell a story? And we got some poster board, we got like some clay dolls, we got some crochet dolls. Let's do some stop motion animation. And we kind of be telling like stop motion animation using these clay dolls. And it's a lot easier than the carpentry project, because we tackle like the most difficult projects when it comes to making stuff. Now we just doing some clay dolls and crochet dolls, which a lot easier, and postables. This is a lot easier than in the past, but a lot of people are afraid to actually like want to tackle this topic at all.
Well, now you say tackle the project. How exactly do you do that? Do you just hold classes, or bring these people together and talk to them and have them make these things? How do you go about doing that?
Well, we try to explain the issue with the postables. Then after that, we decide, okay, let's just tell a story, because a lot of times we've been working with very young audiences, and sometimes I notice how stories are very powerful. Because right now on Netflix, there was this story about like the Central Park 5, and that causing like a bunch of discussions. And you see a bunch of news stories every once in a while about a movie is made about something, then they're discussing and they're protests, and they're like changes are made, because after that Netflix show, they talk about removing the prosecutor from certain companies and stuff like that. I thought, okay, we can tell a story, this story using these dolls, like doing stop motion animation. We can use that to like inspire people to create change. So we've been like doing the research. My father, he be like trying to like he be researching these stories, researching the survivors account, trying to find like he be like illustrating these stories through that he read, and he decided, okay, we're going to like use stories to change people's minds. One thing I want to do is like we definitely want him to keep on drawing, because he's been drawing all this stuff for us right now. I think about maybe him doing like a comic book or like a picture book or something for us. We wanted to think of any type of creative project in that we could think of to change people's minds, because everything in the kitchen sink approach with us, we decided, okay, anything that involves creativity, we're going to start using that, like whether it was crochet, clay, drawings, construction paper. We're gonna use that to like start changing people's minds, because I noticed doing research about the Uighur crisis, they talk about how we need to change people's minds, and one of the solutions suggested was through storytelling and through different through news stories, and where I notice how whenever there's a movie or some type of like TV show made about a certain topic, it made an impact, because people will be discussing these how this movie changed a discussion and stuff. So
yeah, and once you have done this, once you have, let's say you've changed their minds, how do you go about solving the problem? I mean, what's the solution? How can you make it better?
We have something I'm going to announce to the TV show called Wolf 21.
Okay,
So
we're going to get us another poster here.
Show you.
All right.
Show you this one.
Okay.
All right, Wolf 21 suggests like we had 3 points to Wolf 21. One point is we need to like start training a bunch of young people to become leaders and to become makers, creators, artists, to tackle social issues. The second point is we're going to need to like start encouraging creative projects to tackle these, like comic book, picture book, like a movie, TV show, etc. The third point involved trying to like tackle like the backlash or like the denialism, the exterminationism in that is involved in like this discussion. But what I mean by that third point is whenever we decide we're going to tackle this topic, we always be dealing with a bunch of people saying this is not happening, this is not so bad, and we're going to have to like tackle that and tell people and to like stop supporting this. Because one thing that I found out was that a bunch of companies are like secretly like funding like some of these hateful things, because there's this company called Patreon, and the problem I got with Patreon is they're a person over there who've been saying we need to send, that's like saying these concentration camps are not bad, they completely fine, and it's a wonderful what happened to the Muslims. And I thought, okay, no, Patreon should be funding this, because they be removing people all the time for like hate speech or for like their drawings or for their stories they be telling, because they got a term of service, and on the term of service they have a entire list of things that they prohibit the companies from doing. And after what happened at that New Zealand mosque, they talk about how we're going to start, these tech companies are talking about how they're going to prohibit certain individual from like saying hateful things about or dangerous or unethical things about Muslims and other minorities. But they be sending like in money to this guy, and I thought, okay, these companies, not just Patreon, but a whole list of companies, science companies, pharmaceutical companies, business companies, they be sending in money to like to these like concentration camps. Because take for example, Thermo Fisher Scientific. Thermo Fisher Scientific is like a company that do business in High Point, but also they do the DNA equipment, and the DNA equipment is used to like track down and prosecute the Muslims. They got another company, these companies that is used to like do surveillance on the Muslims. There are companies that kind of like use like facial recognition. They like 15 like news articles right now talk about how these different companies that are involved in like supporting the prosecution, and also not just like tech companies, but like take Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't want to like tackle and showcase these problems. And from a historical standpoint, you just look at the Holocaust. The Holocaust concentration camps was partly made possible by IBM. IBM made the computers that kept track of every single like Jewish person going into concentration camp. Not just the IBM, but when Jewish people were being prosecuted, Hollywood companies decided we're not going to talk about the prosecution of the Jewish people, because we can make money off of Nazi Germany to showing their films in the movie theaters. Like if we start examining from a historical standpoint what happening in Nazi Germany, you see parallels. You also see parallels through every single genocide. We done the research on this, my father and I, and in one of the biggest humanitarian crises that happened, in a place called the Congo. It used to be called the Congo Free State. In the Congo Free State, there was like a big mistreatment of the indigenous people by the Belgian, and a bunch of people's hands were being cut off. And what they did to like in response to the international backlash, because that was the start of the human rights movement, and you start seeing like African Americans be like traveling over to the Congo, investigating what was happening. They was like saying that this is real bad. Like the Belgian government was sending like a bunch of people to say this is not so bad. It was called like the propaganda wars, where they start denying how bad it was. And this denialism, we see this today, and that why we do the third point. The third point involved we had to like start tackling denialism. That's why we're gonna have youth leaders. They go do training sessions they go to youth discussion groups involving tackling denialism. We go tell stories about the danger of denialism, because denialism is basically saying that this is not bad. We saw this with the Holocaust, where people were saying before the Holocaust, Jewish people are doing fine, nothing bad happening to them. After the Holocaust,
let me jump in here a minute, because I want to ask you a couple of questions. So basically, what you're wanting to do is enlighten these young people with the facts. And I want to ask you, my Foos, a lot of these things that you're talking about that you all discovered is not information that people would want to readily share, because there are a lot of things, that they're probably not wanting to bring to light. So how did you go about finding out all this information? What did you have to do?
Well, the basic thing that I had to do was just research online different articles, news articles that offer information like this to audiences worldwide. I go to those types of websites to find information about these types of topics and subjects. So I write these down, and I get information about this so that I could
share it with the other students. Huh?
Yeah.
Are there schools besides Dudley that are involved in this?
Well, we got some other volunteers that had to pick and choose which one to get. We got another guy from Northwest High School who gonna be helping us, but a lot of times I have to like pick and choose which volunteers to get, because it's like a difficult topic, and I'll be giving out a lot of information, and we need to like find the right people to convey this information, because I'm not a professor sometimes when explaining history, because I like researching history and researching human rights and stuff like that, and also like making stuff. So we want to find people with that same passions about those two topics. And so I had to find people who like are able to tackle those topics, because sometimes I'll be dealing with people who say, okay, let's just talk about things happening in this country, and thought, okay, but I've been doing that for like years now, like 3 years really. I mean, we've been doing that for like 3 or 4 years. Why can't we just tackle other issues?
Well, now let me ask you. You keep saying we. How many are in your organization? Who's involved?
We got a board of directors. We got a board of directors, and these directors from other states, from Atlanta, Philadelphia, Charlotte. So that like 5 people. We also get like now you're based here in Greensboro, right? Yes, we're based in Greensboro. We had to spread out because we couldn't find enough directors in Greensboro. But we also got like usually like it fluctuates all the time. Like half a dozen students. So one student made these dolls. Another adult volunteers made the other dolls. We got Mafuz, Jacoria, who else? Nicholas.
And how often do you get together? I mean, is this an every afternoon thing, or every day, or once a week? How often do you get folks together?
It depends. We get different groups involved on a weekly basis right now, since the summertime happening. During the school year might be like every once in a while, but we've been busy during summertime. We hopefully be able to do like a workshop every 1 or 2 weekends, because all our volunteers are working to go to summer camp during the weekend. So we had to like go. We had to start like doing this on the weekends to teach this topic, and so we have like about half a dozen people involved, and that only include the high school students and some adult volunteers. For like the directors and everyone else, the total amount is like a dozen people, including us, the directors.
Now, we've put a number on the screen from time to time during this program. If somebody wanted to get involved and work with you and help you, could they call that number and volunteer or get some information about how they could be involved?
Yes, they can be involved. Also, we have like different emails. You should. I know like previously we got one email we used, but also we got like another email called Bookcase Operation @gmail.com. So like it like basically the name of our nonprofit at Gmail. If you Google us, you might find us, especially you look us up on Facebook, because that's how a lot of people find us, usually through Facebook.
Sounds like you moved away somewhat from bookcase operations. You're doing a lot more now than just making bookcases, right?
Yeah, finding a different title. Basically, Bookcase was like the original project, and then we did tables and little free libraries and doing the carpentry stuff for a long time. We've been doing that like for years and years and years, and trying to find a different trying to brainstorm like different names and titles.
Well, maybe we can have you back on the program sometime under a different name, but we certainly appreciate what you're doing. It sounds like you're trying to educate people and lead them to take a stand about the right things. Certainly want to thank both of you for coming and sharing with us on the program. You bet. And as always, thank you for watching Greensboro Glimpses.